12 o'clock. Hello, good afternoon. Welcome to the news at 12. First, the headlines. Federal government resumes talks with Sano Naso today to end ongoing strike. Jam to decide UTM cut of marks May 11. On the foreign scene, South African law firms fight equality rules as some black lawyers allege discrimination. Iran threatens U.S. forces in Hamas after Trump escort plan. And in sports, Super Falcons do leave Serie A feminine title with AS Roma and now the details. I am Nana Hawao Akilabe. The federal government has called on the leadership of the Joint Action Committee of the Senior Staff Association of Nigerian Universities and the Non-Academic Staff Union of Universities NASU and aligned institutions to a reconciliatory meeting today in a bid to get the unions to suspend their ongoing strike. It will be recalled that the unions commenced a nationwide strike on Friday, May 1st, 2026, after they convened their decision in a letter dated April 30, 2026, addressed to the Minister of Education, Tunji Alausa, citing the federal government's failure to conclude ongoing negotiations and present a fresh offer on allowances. The letter, signed by NASU General Secretary Peter Adeyemi and SANU's President Mohammed Ibrahim, said the strike would begin at midnight on May 1st, adding that no alternative proposal had been made to replace the withdrawn allowance. The union said the industrial action became inevitable following what they described as the government's inability to avert the crisis through meaningful engagement. However, the strike is expected to halt administrative and support services in federal tertiary institutions, raising concerns over another round of disruptions in Nigeria's university system, which has faced recurring industrial disputes in recent years. In the meantime, the Senior Staff Association of Nigeria Universities, SANU, and the Non-Academic Staff Union, NASU, at the University of Iroyin, have commenced an indefinite strike guarding activities on campus. The action is part of a nationwide industrial strike by non-teaching staff unions, which began on May 1st following the expiration of an ultimatum issued to the federal government. Members of the union staged a peaceful protest at university gates this morning, demanding a 45% salary increment and rejecting the earlier 30% offer. The duo of SANU chairman Professor Falawo Lushola and NASU chairman Comrade Subiru Aruno Ibrahim said renegotiating the 2009 agreements on paid arrears and alleged marginalization of non-teaching staff. They added that the withdrawal of services has disrupted key operations, warning that the strike will continue until their demands are fully addressed. The House of Representatives Committee on Infectious Diseases has called for tighter coordination and oversight in the implementation of donor-funded health programs as it intensifies an investigation into the use of about $4.6 billion received by implementing organizations between 2021 and 2025. The funds, largely from the Global Fund and the United States Agency for International Development, were meant to support Nigerians' response to HIV/AIDS, tuberculosis, malaria, and other infectious diseases. The chairman of the committee, Amobioga, spoke in Abuja during an oversight visit to key grant recipients, including the Institute of Human Virology Nigeria, Family Health International, and Catholic Relief Services, while commending the organizations for their contributions to disease control. Oga stressed that the stricter monitoring would now be enforced, adding that all implementing partners would now be required to submit their plans directly to the National Assembly. Nigeria is one of the largest beneficiaries of Global Fund support globally, with billions of dollars committed over the years to combat HIV, tuberculosis, and malaria diseases that continue to pose major public health challenges. The Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board will convene in 2026 policy meeting on admissions today, May 11, 2026, where critical decisions, including the minimum unified tertiary matriculation examination cutoff marks for 2027 academic session are expected to be determined. This was disclosed in a statement issued yesterday by the board's spokesperson Fabia Benjamin, stating that the meeting would take place at the Body of Benchers Auditorium, Plot 688, Institute and Research District, FCC, Phase 3, Jabi, Abuja, and will bring together key stakeholders in Nigeria's tertiary education sector. He noted that the major policy directions would be unveiled by the Minister of Education, Dr. Tunji Alausa, adding that goodwill messages are expected from agencies including the Nigerian Education Loan Fund, the National Youth Service Corps, and other stakeholders. Benjamin further disclosed that the event will feature the 6th edition of the National Tertiary Admissions Performance Merit Awards, aimed at promoting compliance with admission guidelines and improving standards in tertiary education across the country. The United States has resumed visa processing for Nigerian and other foreign doctors after quietly reversing a policy that had frozen applications under its travel ban system. The report said the earlier policy, introduced in January, halted decisions on visa extensions, work permits, and green cards for citizens about 39 countries, leaving many foreign trained physicians unable to work. However, the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services has updated its guidelines to exempt medical doctors from the restriction, allowing the applications to proceed. The move comes amid a growing shortage of healthcare workers in the United States, where authorities estimate a deficit of about 65,000 doctors, a figure expected to rise in the coming years. The policy shift is expected to ease pressure on hospitals and allow affected doctors, including Nigerians, to continue working. On this note, we'll go for a short break, returning with sport and foreign stories. Please stay with us.
In addition to being the first to break the news,
we scratch beyond the surface
to bring you news behind the news
with first-hand information from newsmakers
via exclusive interviews.
At Sobi FM,
our news goes beyond regurgitating press releases from political office holders
or public figures. We bring exclusive stories
from often neglected sources.
We garnish our reports with investigative pieces
laden with verifiable facts and figures
that present issues and events as they are
in a balanced and unbiased manner,
in a timely and accurate version,
courtesy of our daring, energetic,
and industrious team of reporters scattered across the state and beyond.
With Sobi 101.9 FM News,
10 a.m., 12 p.m., 4 p.m., and 6 p.m.
You have the world at your fingertip.
At Sobi 101.9 FM Ilorin, we revel in the tradition of breaking the news.
Welcome back and listening to all our programs via the internet. Just visit www.sobifm.com and you will have access to all and more. You can also follow us on our social media platforms, Facebook at Sobi101.9 FM, while X and Instagram is Sobi101_9FM. And on to the foreign scene. Five South Africa's top law firms are suing the government over new black employment and ownership targets aimed at undoing decades of racial injustice, calling them irrational and saying the timeline is unrealistic given the expertise required. The case comes amid scrutiny of affirmative action policies, which aim to tackle disadvantages that white minority rule inflicted on the country's non-white majority, partly fueled by criticism from U.S. President Donald Trump and South African-born billionaire Elon Musk. The legal profession, like much of corporate South Africa, remains largely white 3 decades after the end of apartheid, with people make up about 7% the population and 72% of partners at top law firms, according to the industry regulator. Iran's military today warned that U.S. forces would be attacked if they entered the Strait of Hormuz after President Donald Trump said the United States would begin escorting ships through the waterway. Negotiations between the two countries have been deadlocked since a ceasefire and the U.S.-Israeli war against Iran took effect on April 8, with Iran's stranglehold on the strait a main point of contention. Trump, however, yesterday said that the new maritime operation, which he dubbed Project Freedom, was a humanitarian gesture for crews aboard the many ships swept up in the blockade may be running low on food and other supplies. And in sports, Nigerian Super Falcons internationals Risola Babajide and Shukrat Oladipo have scored their first major silverware with AS Roma after the club clinched the 2025-2026 Serie A feminine title, defeating Tanana in a decisive encounter. Midfielder Manuela Giuliano was the standout performer, scoring both goals to seal victory for the Gilarese and confirm their dominance in Italian women's football. The triumph marks Roma's third league title and the third in the past 4 seasons, underlining a sustained period of success for the club. Babajide has contributed to the campaign with the 9 league appearances, registering 3 assists, while Oladipo also played a role in the title-winning squad. Roma will now turn their attention to completing a domestic double as they prepare to face Juventus in the Coppa Italia final on May 24. And that sports story concludes the news at 12 from the Hilltop studio of Sobi 101.9 FM Ilorin. But before we go, here's a recap of the major stories. Federal government has called on the leadership of the Joint Action Committee of the Senior Staff Association of Nigeria, University SANU, and the Non-Academic Staff Union of Universities, NASU, and allowed institutions to reconciliatory meeting today in a bid to get the unions to suspend their ongoing strike. The Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board JAMB will convene a 2026 policy meeting on admissions today, May 11, 2026, where critical decisions, including the minimum unified tertiary matriculation examination cutoff marks for the 2026-2027 academic session, are expected to be determined. On the foreign scene, 4 of South Africa's top law firms are suing the government over new black employment and ownership targets aimed at undoing decades of racial injustice, calling them irrational and saying the timeline is unrealistic given the expertise required. Iran's military today warned that U.S. forces would be attacked if they enter the Strait of Hormuz after President Donald Trump said the United States would begin escorting ships through the waterway. On the spot, about to report that Nigerian Super Falcons internationals Risola Babajide and Shukrat Oladipo have secured their first major silverware with AS Roma after the club clinched the 2025-2026 Serie A feminine title, defeating Tanana in a decisive encounter. That was the news edited by Debajo Bakar and produced by Abdulmalik Jimo. I am Nana Hawa Akinabi. For information and reportage of events in your area, community, or commercial news, please call our newsroom on 08